sorry to say this, but I think this is the end. The end of this channel without Gigantic. Hi guys, I'm so happy to be here today, talking about this announcement. So Gigantic is coming back, man. I don't even really know what to say about it at this point. On April 9th, Gigantic is coming back in the new Rampage Edition. If you want to look up information about it online, look up Rampage Edition. A lot of websites are sort of categorizing this as its own game as opposed to Gigantic. It makes it really hard to look up information about the game if you're just looking up Gigantic, because you'll just see the old articles, you won't see the new stuff. So Gigantic Rampage Edition, what's different? A lot of stuff. As somebody who played the test last year, there's a lot of stuff I couldn't talk about, but now it kind of seems like the lid's off all that, so we're just going to talk about it. After playing that test, there was one thing I was sure of after playing that test last year. There was a lot of content in there that did not exist in the old game, and it was polished enough that there was no doubt in my mind that it hadn't been worked on. There was just too much there that it just didn't make sense. Like, some of that stuff I know was in like testing internally, but this was polished up and stuff, and that just doesn't just happen. You invest money in that, and it just didn't make sense to me that Gearbox would polish it up for like a one weekend thing. It just didn't make sense. Stuff we're getting with this, because it's awesome. Looks like private matches are going to be a thing now. There's an option in there for that. It's locked currently. Ranked mode. We're going to get a ranked mode. There's a new game type, which is basically, it's like a smaller version of the main game type. Basically, you're running around at different points collecting energy, and then your monster rampages, but you have only one heart on your monster in this situation. You also start at level 10. You can swap builds and characters mid-match. It's a game type that I have said since the beginning of Gigantic that Gigantic needed. It needs like a beginner-friendly like mode for newcomers to get into, where they can switch characters and mess with builds and stuff on the fly. Because one of the biggest things with Gigantic is the learning curve, and when you play the main game type, it is very punishing on somebody to have to get into a match that is that long. You're stuck on one character. If you hate that character, it completely freaking screws your experience with the game. You need a game type where people are a little bit more fluid in their choices. And it plays different. It's not a bad game type. It's a fun game type. I think some people are going to like it more. I think the old Gigantic fans are going to like it way less than the original game type. That being said, we're also getting Roland and Kajir. Kajir's a new assassin. He's a cat. He turns invisible and stuff. And Roland, freaking Roland, the goddamn, he's like a myth. He's an urban legend. He hasn't been seen in decades. Everyone thought he was gone, and he's back. He's finally going to be in the game on April 12th. We're so excited. The biggest thing about this announcement, before I talk about some other new stuff that I should point out, is the game is coming back, but it's going to be $20. It's no longer going to be a freemium model. It's going to be $20, and you get everything, but you have to unlock stuff in the game with in-game currency. Unless it changes after launch, in-game currency is really easy to unlock. Characters are really easy to unlock. You're going to be unlocking stuff very quickly. I assume they're probably going to change it a little bit, but I doubt much. Hopefully not much, because it's pretty easy. Like, you're going to be unlocking stuff left and right, so it's not like, oh no, it's locked even though I bought it, and now it's going to take me 50 hours to get a character. No, it'll take you like 2 matches to get characters. So they haven't announced any DLC or any plans for any DLC, but I'm assuming, I think it just goes, some people are really worrying about that, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, I think they didn't, because I don't think they freaking need to. And I think they know that. Like, it's a modern day. If you're releasing a multiplayer game in 2024, there's expectation of DLC down the road. You don't need to say it. You don't need to announce it. The big announcement right now is that the game is coming back. You don't need to worry about announcing anything else until we get there. And we will get there. And there will be DLC, probably. There will probably be a battle pass or some kind of other DLC. I've heard people talk about, supposedly there were some leaks and they saw like DLC bundles that you could buy on Steam. So there will probably be skins or something you can buy or can. I doubt new characters. I have a feeling new characters are just going to be free and you'll just have to unlock them. But I have a feeling skins, probably stuff like that, skins and emotes and stuff like that. That's another thing they added to the game. They added these emotes. They pop up in the chat. They're not obnoxious. They don't go up over your character's head or anything. They don't. Your character's not doing flossing in the middle of the match or whatever. Um, they just pop up in the chat, so they're not obstructing the screen mid match or anything like that. You also have more customization for things like your player icon and a player title and things like that you can equip. It's really nice. Just quality of life. Like going through the menus on this game are the Steam beta's in I think Friday. There's a test going on Arc today, and then I think Friday I think is the Steam beta. Thursday, Friday, something like that. Thursday going into Friday. But you guys will see it soon enough. I think the menu is just they just polished everything up quite a bit. The tutorials are better. There's a lot more like training tutorials to sort of get you into the game. Uh, it's just overall, it just feels like a better version of what we had before. Not a completely different version. It doesn't feel like Gigantic 2. It just feels like a more polished version of Gigantic. The final big thing I need to talk about is the fact that there's two new maps coming. Picaro Bay and Heaven's Ward. That's cool. There's a trailer. I think it might have some clips of those. But we didn't get to play those in any of the tests that I played, so, whatever. Um, they're coming, and that's cool. And I've said that since the beginning, that I think another big thing with Gigantic was originally it only had like 2 or 3 maps when I started playing it. And one of the things with Gigantic that I don't think a lot of people understand is that the target audience is a mixture of MOBA veterans and shooter veterans. And shooter veterans are used to dozens of maps. You cannot release a game with 2 maps and keep shooter players interested. They just get bored. To them, it will feel like the same game over and over and over again. And I really stressed back when Gigantic was out the first time the necessity of having more maps because it just creates more gameplay variety. Even if half the maps fucking suck, just the ability to queue into different maps really adds a lot for shooter fans. Maybe not MOBA fans who are used to playing the same map hundreds of times over, but for shooter fans, it does, and that's half this game's audience. So I'm glad to see that they're adding 2 new maps. That's great. New game types, new characters, better tutorials, more customization for you as a person, better menus. I Everything about this release just sounds amazing, and I'm super super excited for it. Oh, I lied. There is one more thing I need to talk about, and that's the systems this is coming to. It is coming to Arc and Steam on the PC, and PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X/S/ whatever new console they're supposed to be releasing later this year. So, they have announced crossplay, but they haven't given us a lot of details. Um, Hopefully, at least the 2 PC communities are crossplay, and the 2 console communities are crossplay with each other. And hopefully, there's some kind of optional option for a third pool where console and PC play together. The reason for that, I say, is for any dead or struggling game, player retention is really, really hard when you have a low population base. People don't want to sit in a queue for 30 minutes. Your average person doesn't love Gigantic as much as those super fans, and it is really, really hard to keep people around when they're going to sit in a queue for 30 minutes finding a game. It's not going to happen. They're going to go play Call of Duty or whatever, Apex Legends, They're not going to sit here and wait forever. So you need to have low queue times. The best way to do that is to have more people in the pool, and the best way to do that is cross-play. It sucks when it comes to competitive situations. For example, I don't think in ranked mode we should have any cross-play between console and PC. I really hope we don't. But I think in like a general standard queue, I'm completely fine with it. It's whatever. Ranked is there to be ranked and competitive, and hopefully that's where they make that differentiation. And in the standard gameplay queues, they're just like, screw it, these are just for fun, they're not serious, we can have PC and console intermingling, and I think that will help queue times a lot. Um, but there's not a lot of details on that stuff right now. Hopefully, we get them at some point before launch. I'd be interested to see how it's going to go down. Um, so, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Are you going to be coming back to Gigantic? Are you excited for this re release? I freaking am. As a side note, I don't know whether I'm going to be streaming or doing video content or if I'm going to be doing any content on this channel. I just kind of feel like I have an audience of people who are very dedicated to Gigantic on this channel. That is pretty much how I built this channel. As small as it is built around Gigantic. And I know a lot of you would be excited to hear this news, but whether or not I'm going to go back to streaming or making videos on Gigantic, it's kind of up in the air. Lots changed since the last time Gigantic was out. We'll just have to see how things go. But I will be playing. So, see you guys on the airship. Snappydude out. Bye, y'all.